Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Last week, we began a dive into a book called Should We Stop? Tackling all the reasons people stop having children and what God's word says about it. Because who doesn't love a really nice, short, punchy book title? And this book is by Carissa Collins. She is a mother of 11, and as the title implies, it is 27 reasons that people say they are going to stop having kids or aren't going to have kids, and it is all her argument to those points. So it's her 27 reasons why you are wrong and the reasons you don't want kids are wrong, and you should instead give your womb to God, as she says, and let him decide what happens. And last week we went through the first 14 points, and today we are going to go into the last 13 of these points. And it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride because this entire thing is a bit of a a bumpy ride. But before we do get into it, I think one thing that we can all agree upon is that therapy would solve a lot of issues that are at play when it comes to situations like this, right? Like, this woman needs therapy. All of her children need therapy. They definitely 100% should get therapy in the future. I also think that we all need therapy. I genuinely just believe the world would be a better place if we all could get therapy, and that is why I want to take a moment to tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Grow Therapy. Grow Therapy is an online therapy service that helps work to make therapy more accessible. They work with over 125 different insurance plans, and because of this, it means that the average you will pay for a session is $21, and sometimes, depending on your plan, it can be as low as $0. Grow Therapy is incredible because it allows access to so many people. There are over 25,000 different therapists that you can choose from, and you're able to filter these therapists based off of things that you are looking for. So if you are looking for someone who is queer, same with by things like gender and religion, ethnicity, etc. Like, you are able to find a therapist who you think is going to understand you. On top of that, you can book an appointment with up to only like 2 days notice, and this includes on weekends and at nighttime as well. And you don't have to worry too much about fitting it into your schedule if you have a really busy time coming up, because this is not a subscription-based service. This is a pay per session service. So it really does work for you, and you are able to cater this to be the therapy that you need. Therapy has helped change my life. I've been in therapy for over 12 years now, and I do not know what I would do without it. It has saved my life so many times over. And I think that it is incredible to have a service where it is more accessible. If you want to try Grow Therapy for yourself, then please do use the link in the description or scan the QR code up on the screen right now and find yourself the perfect therapist for you. Thank you so much, Grow Therapy, for sponsoring this video. And now let's get into this nightmare of a book, shall we? So as I mentioned, we have already covered 14 different topics, and I will give you a little recap by just reading out what they all are. But I highly recommend going and watching that video if you haven't already. It is not necessary, but you should. But the 14 points we talked about already were: I'm too old, time, I don't have a village, overpopulation, me time / traveling, we must be wise, that's just your conviction, health, God told me I'm done, the big family hate, I don't have patience, physical appearance, it's not that serious, and finances. And for today, we are starting off strong with the reason being, the reason I shouldn't have more kids or any kids is because I am in ministry. And so now she's going to tell us why that is a bad excuse and you should have children anyway. You don't know what you're talking about. If you're in ministry, you don't speak for God. No, that's not your job. She speaks for God, not pastors. Many people think growing your family and ministry don't go together, that work of God is more important than your family, that you won't have the time to be used by God if you're consumed by raising children. I'm here to say, they go hand in hand. So I have some questions, okay? I have a few questions. One being, what I'm curious about what her stance on like nuns and priests are, right? Because they're like married to God, right? They don't get married, they stay celibate. Like that's their thing. Is she trying to say that they're not godly? Is she trying, or is that different? Is that like a different thing than like a pastor and other people in ministry? I'm very curious to know. Maybe she's not Catholic, so it doesn't apply. I don't know. She doesn't say. But even that point aside, which I really wish she would explain, I just love her level of ego, because the amount of times she's like, I don't give a fuck what pastors say. I listen to God. Okay, but is the thing that, are they not the ones who communicate with God? Is that not like what a pastor is? They're the ones who like speak on behalf of God to like teach you things. Are they not the ones who have a closer relationship with God? So why are you telling them you're wrong? I know God better than you, and this is what God wants, and I think you're stupid and you're doing it wrong. Sorry, I'm more Christian than you are. The audacity. The audacity. Anyway, carrying on. I've never had so many opportunities to share God's love, faithfulness, and goodness as I do with many children, because we are approached constantly. Right, okay, I see. I understand. So have kids, because then people will come and talk to you, and now that someone's talking to you, you can then be like, hey, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I don't think that's a very good reason to have kids. I think if your reason to have kids is so people approach you so you can tell them about God, that's probably the worst reason that's been given so far. And she's given some very bad reasons. They've all been terrible reasons. This, I think, is... No, you know what? It's because the reasons so far have been like, this isn't a reason to not have kids. This is now like a reason to have kids, is so you can preach about God to strangers who approach you. Like, girl, that's the worst reason I've ever had to have kids. Okay? No. Absolutely the fuck not. And also, I think implied being like, and I get to teach my children about God. So, like, I don't actually have to do any spiritual work because I have 12? I hope she doesn't end up with 12. I have 11 kids here and I teach them about God. So that's all the spiritual work I do. I'm basically a minister because I have a small church group here and I teach them all about God. So I'm doing my part. No, I don't quite think that's how it works. I really dislike that. Reason 16. You can't stop God's plan anyway. And I like this reason. I think that this is a very good point, and I am intrigued to see what she has to say about it. My rebuttal to that is then, why go on birth control or get sterilized to begin with? If it's all God's will anyway, why cut out part of your body or put harmful chemicals into your body? I would once again like to circle back to the free will. The free will thing we were talking about last time, right? Of the like, you're having kids is your decision, right? Regardless of you being like, it's God's will, it's what God wants. You are choosing to like have unprotected sex. Like, you are making this decision. You are using your free will to decide to get pregnant. Other people are using their free will to decide otherwise. Other people are using their free will to decide to use contraception or have procedures done that stop that from happening. That is them using their free will to make that decision, because God gave you free will. That's like his whole thing, right? Whether you like to believe it or not, your kids are being born out of free will, not God's will. Like, yes, I suppose if you believe in God, it's like partially God's will, but like, you are making the decision to get pregnant, you're putting yourself in that position, that is free will. People who are on birth control or anything like that, and they get pregnant, they are viewing that as God's will because they're like, well, I didn't choose that. That wasn't my choice. This was not a decision that I made, so clearly it's a decision that God made, right? So like, that makes more sense to me because they didn't make the choice and it still happened. Like, they were actively trying to not make it happen and then it did. So they're like, oh, God must have chosen this for me. That's why you, Carissa, are using your free will to get pregnant. So, when we trust science to prevent children, it might fail us. We might still end up getting pregnant. It's only 99% effective. That doesn't mean God pushed his way through. It means science failed you. So, science beats God, is what I'm hearing here. God can be brought down by a contraceptive pill, is what you're trying to tell me here. That if God wanted you pregnant, but you are on birth control, he just sits there like, gosh darn it, I can't make this person pregnant. He like goes to like reach his hand to like bless you with the baby. And he like, oh, I can't touch her. She's got this barrier around her caused by contraception. Like, I'm pretty sure God can override these things if he so chooses to, right? I feel like God can't be held back by a contraceptive pill. That just doesn't, considering God is almighty, if you think he can be held back by a tiny pill, how almighty is he actually, you know? Like, that's all I'm asking. Maybe the 1% of inefficiency is the 1% of times God is like, I'm overriding this right now, actually, is what's about to happen. Her views on science and God are very confusing because they apply where she wants them to and when she wants them to apply. And this is one of those instances where it's like, I don't understand what your beliefs actually are and you're not making very much sense. This is such a hypocritical take because if all pregnancies are God's will, like this woman is putting herself in the position to get pregnant frequently and every pregnancy is God's will, but suddenly if you're on birth control and you get pregnant, it's not God's will, it's science. I'm confused. Every pregnancy is God's will except the pregnancies that happen when you're on birth control? That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand this logic. That would still be God's will. No, he's still making the, I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense. The Israelites wanted to go back to Egypt into slavery where they could at least be guaranteed a meal in between beatings rather than trust God in the unknown. Faith is without seeing, but be encouraged. It's in the unknown and the darkest times you'll find him. Don't run to Egypt. Trust God and walk in his will and covering. What has that got to do with anything? Like, it sounds like I've just taken this out of context. I haven't. This wasn't prompted by anything. Like, this is just quite literally thrown on the end here. There's nothing leading into this. This is just how this chapter ends. What the fuck? There is a conversation about going back to a familiar hell instead of like an unknown freedom. Like, that is a conversation that exists. That is something to talk about, but I don't understand how it applies here. I do not understand the relevance, and I don't know why we keep bringing up slavery. Like, this is the second time so far in this book we've brought it up. Like, why? I'm very confused, and I just wanted to share because I needed all of you to be confused with me, because truly, what the fuck? What the fuck? Reason 17. I don't want children. That's the reason. Just because you don't want them, which I think, personally, very valid reason. Don't have kids if you don't want them. That's probably the right move. She doesn't think so though. What she says, when I got married, I didn't want children either. I had dreams and aspirations and children didn't fit into them. But God, he changed my heart. He gave me his desires. I sacrificed that record label. I gave up my career aspirations. I committed to living in God's will over my own. Jesus is the transformation of our life. He comes in and makes us new creations. New creations with his heart and desires. Jesus says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Her not wanting kids actually explains so much, right? Like, it explains so much. She gave up her aspirations to have a life that she never actually wanted. She gave up her aspirations for a life she never actually wanted, but thought that she had to. And so she has had to spend all this time convincing herself that this is actually what she wants and that this is the life that she was meant to have and that she wants and that she is like really happy in this. She's had to spend time convincing herself of that fact. Which is very sad, but clearly something she has been spending a long time doing. And I feel like the way that she and so many people like this justify this is it's like, oh, she's having all these kids and living the life that she thinks God wants for her so she can have like a good afterlife, right? So she can go to heaven because she's following God's will and she's doing everything that she is meant to do based on her biblical readings and belief. And I just always find it so sad and so tragic how many people like force themselves into miserable lives just so they can have what they believe is going to be a good afterlife. And I just like feel so bad for people who think that that's like a worthy sacrifice to like suffer in this life and also cause suffering to other people in this life just to like have a good afterlife. I cannot imagine like believing in an afterlife so strongly that I would ever let it affect the way I live my life, but especially to like this degree. Like, it's astounding. Like, yes, I do believe that you can change your mind about having kids. I do think that some people who don't want kids and then have kids like do change their mind and are like glad they have kids, right? Like, my mom didn't want kids. That was never something that she wanted. I was conceived due to a birth control failure. And she's always been like, you know, it was meant to be. It's what the universe wanted, which is something that obviously this woman doesn't agree with. Anyways, my mom was like, I'm very glad that happened because I got you and I love you and I'm so happy, you know, like that's the thing. But also like, you know, she never would have chosen that herself and she's happy with the outcome and that's great. But like, some people aren't going to change their minds, right? Like, some people are not going to change their minds. Some people are going to go into motherhood and absolutely like hate it and be completely fucking miserable. And I think that like the way she talks about her kids and the way she uses her kids is very much shows that I don't think she ever actually came to desire motherhood. She more has just like reluctantly accepted it and manipulated it into a way that works for her and that she can benefit from. Like, she hasn't welcomed motherhood in as like a selfless thing, as a like, I love my kids and I love having a family. It's a very like, how can I benefit from the situation? How can I benefit from motherhood? It's treating her kids as accessories. It's using her kids to further the aspirations that she had for herself since she had to give up on them for their kids, which is something that a lot of parents do. It's a like, you know, you have to give up on your dreams so you like live vicariously through your children. You use your children to further your own self, or you use them to live through. And obviously, as she says, she wanted to go into music, which she actually has an album out, by the way. Let me know if you want me to listen to that. She uses them for entertainment. She has used them for fame. So like, she is furthering the ambitions she had by using her kids to do it. And so like, her having a lot of kids really benefits her in that way. It's not the love of motherhood, it's the love of what she can get out of motherhood, which are two very different things. Reason 18. My spouse and I don't agree. What happens when one spouse wants to trust God with their family size and the other doesn't? What do you do when you're not on the same page? Does the wife just submit to the husband's decision? Does the husband force his wife to carry children she isn't willing to carry? Jesus fucking Christ. That the casualness to which that question was asked is terrifying. Like, you can't just casually say, do you let your husband rape you? Like, you cannot just casually say that. Like, that's a normal fucking thing to ask. That's so fucked up. I remember the day the Lord spoke to me loud and clear to give him my womb and trust him. Pause for a second. I really want to know what these people mean when they say that. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I remember the day God spoke to me loud and clear. What does that, like, as someone who has no religious background at all, what does that actually mean? Because I like, do not understand. Like, did you hear God's voice? And like, there's this thing of so many of these points as well are like, this is what I heard from God, and she's like, and other people heard this from God, but he was lying to them. That's not what God actually wants. Like, why do you say you hear something from God, and then when other people say they also hear things from God, you're like, yes, but I'm right and you're wrong? I don't understand. I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. Like, the main character syndrome is astounding. So I really want to know what exactly this means and what hearing something loudly from God means. Anyway, carrying on. And I remember the day my husband decided he didn't want to keep having children. So how did we end up 16 years later with 10 children and in complete agreement on trusting God with our family size? All God. We stopped fighting about it and just started praying about it. I don't trust that coercion didn't take place here, because a part that I cut out is she talks about how he didn't have it in his conviction to like stop because he couldn't find any reason to get a vasectomy that was biblical. So they kept having sex and she got pregnant like 3 times before he finally was like, okay, this is God's will and I'll go along with it. But like, there were 3 pregnancies that happened when he didn't want to have kids anymore. So like, that's fucked up. Using God against someone to like have kids that they don't want to have is like incredibly fucked up and not okay at all. Like, that is manipulative. That is coercion. That is like rape. right? If you are forcing someone to have kids that they don't want to have, and the way you are doing that especially is being like, this is what God wants. If we don't do this, God will be disappointed. Like, you will go to hell. It's not biblical if we don't do that. Like, that's so fucked up. And I don't know much about her husband. He doesn't seem to be like a major, you know, person who is there. He's sometimes in the TikToks. They don't really talk about him that much. I don't know much about him. I don't see much about him. And there's a lot of people I see talk about how he is like very disrespectful of them and he doesn't give a fuck. And like, I don't think that that's okay, right? I think that he should still like be involved in his family's life or whatever. But I also, if there has been years worth of coercion and like 7 pregnancies have been born out of just him being worn down by his wife being like, we have to have more kids or you're going to go to hell. Like, I can kind of understand it if he is like, if he has stepped away because he's been like used for such a long time and not had a voice and has been like broken down into it. But I don't know the situation in full, but just based off of this sort of statement alone, it feels, I don't like it. I don't like it, and it's not fair on literally anyone involved in the situation. Like, everyone's being fucked over and hurt by this. Reason 19. I have peace about it. I've searched the Bible for this and I can't find it. I don't see one disciple or prophet of God making decisions based on a feeling of peace. In fact, it seems to be opposite. Most of the decision God's people were called to walk in, they didn't feel peace about. Noah didn't feel peace about the ark. Moses didn't feel peace about approaching Pharaoh. Abraham didn't feel peace about sacrificing his son. Girl, you're not that important. You're not that important. This is like, it's astounding. You're like, sorry, Moses and Muhammad and Abraham, they didn't make decisions that brought them peace. Okay, girl, you're not a prophet, okay? Chill out, calm down for a second. Also, I hate the implication here that she would sacrifice her children if God asked her to. Like, sorry? Yeah, this story, so many of the stories in the Bible that I know are so horrible and so fucked up. And then they don't even like question it. It's so scary to me. Like, this story being like, you know, God asked him to kill his son to prove that he was loyal and that he would do what God asked, right? So he like made this hard decision that wasn't going to bring him peace, right? Because killing your son is obviously a really difficult thing to do. And so he was making the decision to do this, to sacrifice his son for God. But then God came in and was like, you've proven yourself worthy. I can see that you were willing to kill your son, but I'm not actually going to make you do that. I'll give you this goat to kill instead. You're welcome. And everyone's like, he's so merciful. He's so kind. He didn't actually make him kill his son. We have very different definitions of merciful and good. Because, like, I don't know. To me personally, even asking someone to do that is incredibly fucked up. You can't just ask someone to do that. And if you are willing to kill your child because someone asked you to do it, you need to remove yourself from whatever relationship you were in where that is happening. You should never worship someone who tells you to kill your child. Number 1, you should never love someone so much that you are willing to kill your child for them. Okay, these are facts. Someone tells you to kill your child, and then at the last minute stops you. You don't say thank you. You don't. Maybe you kill them instead, actually. I think is the better outcome, because what the fuck? So, yeah, I find the people who look at that story as a literal story, right? Like, as like a literal actual thing that has happened, and the takeaway is God being merciful. I am scared of them. Like, I am very scared of people who walk away with this outlook, because what the fuck? What the fuck? How are you using this as an example for why you should have kids even if you don't want to have kids? Prophets didn't make decisions that brought them peace. They were willing to kill their children. That's not good, though, is it? It's not. What? Yeah, so I very much dislike the fact that she implied here that she would kill her children if God asked her to. Because that's really concerning. The enemy will do whatever he can to stop you from having God's children. Okay, But here's my next question, right? How do you know that you're having children because God told you to and not because Satan told you to? Because presumably Satan is the enemy, right? Satan is always the enemy to these people. Because more children could also be more children for Satan to control, right? If you have 11 kids, it's really hard to keep your eye on all 11 of them. It's very easy to let some of them get away from you. That you are giving Satan more opportunity to take them into his grasp, right? So, I don't know. Maybe you're listening to the wrong person. Reason 20. Postpartum. You will feel done. You will feel worn down. You will think it's all you can handle. Your mind and body will feel at its capacity, but you will also heal. The projection that she has going on is so frustrating. Like, no, not everyone will heal psychologically and physically. Like, not everyone does come back from pregnancy and giving birth. Like, some people are forever, well, everyone is forever changed because they are now a parent, but like some people's bodies are like forever changed in an irreparable way. Some people's minds are forever changed in an irreparable way. Like, postpartum affects everybody differently, and I think that it is so valid for people to not want to go through that again, especially if they've had an incredibly like bad go of it. Like, some people get like postpartum psychosis, and I can only imagine how terrifying it must be if you are experiencing like severe postpartum like psychosis. And you know, there are people who like kill their babies because of how badly they are suffering from postpartum. And I think that like that is very valid to be traumatized by that, or like even if you don't go so far to actually do that, but to have those thoughts and to have to battle those feelings. I think that if that is something that you experience, I cannot even imagine the level of distress that must cause you. And I think that it is so incredibly valid to not want to put yourself through that again, not put your like partner through that again, or your family or your child that you have. Like, that's not like, that is so valid to not want to experience that again. And I think it's really disrespectful to be like, you'll heal and then you can do it again. Get over it. Like, no. Like, yes, you should heal. But I think it's very fair to not want to go through that again. If we made decisions based on feelings, we would never get out of bed, never go to work, never cook dinner, never go to school, never start a business, never go to church, never pray. Hey, so I think you need therapy. I thought that before, but I think it for a new reason now, because this sounds like you are depressed. You should want to do those things, yeah? Like, yes, some days are hard and some days you might not want to get out of bed, but if every single day of your life you do not want to get out of bed, you do not want to get up or cook dinner or go to church or do the things you love and spend time with your kids, like if it is a struggle to do that every single day, that is not normal, right? Like, that is not the way you are meant to be living your life, and you do genuinely need to seek help for that. Like, you need a therapist, you need maybe to go on antidepressants, like you need support for that, because it is not just the way you are meant to be living your life. And adding more kids onto that is not going to help you, and it is going to harm you more and also hurt your kids as well, because you are not in a position where you can be at your best, and you are like putting so much more pressure on your children to make up for the energy that you were unable to give, and you were also unable to give that back to yourself, and you deserve to give that to yourself and allow yourself to heal and want to live. Like, you should make decisions based on feelings. You should make decisions that are going to lead you to having a life that you love and enjoy. And you have made decisions over and over again that have led you into a life that you are trying to convince yourself you enjoy, but you don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. And I feel so bad and like so sad that this is a life that she has chosen for herself, but she has chosen it for herself and is now telling other people to choose it as well. Like, don't tell someone who actively enjoys waking up and living their life, just like make this choice that you hate, and then you won't want to get out of bed anymore, and that's how you should live your life. Like, this is the reason why people don't want to have kids, because if they have kids when they don't want them, they're going to be depressed, and then no one's going to be happy. If we made choices based on our feelings, no one would ever get out of bed. Wrong. A lot of people who don't want kids and don't have kids are happy to get out of bed in the morning. But those same people, if they had kids, then they wouldn't want to. And so they're making a decision that means they're going to continue to want to get out of bed in the morning. Rest, be lazy, and enjoy that baby right after birth. Allow your body to heal and soak in all the baby joy. Don't worry, it'll be a year later and you'll be a superwoman again. Except you won't. You'll be pregnant again. You get pregnant every fucking year. So you're not going to be superwoman again. You're going to be pregnant again, and then going through postpartum again, and then you're going to be pregnant again. And that is the cycle that this woman has been living for like 15 years. There is no break. You're either pregnant or in postpartum. There is no other time. And being like, spend your time resting and with your baby and spending time and soaking up all that baby joy. You have 10 other kids. You actually can't do that. You actually cannot just rest and relax and soak up all the new baby joy because you have 10 other kids you've got to look after, and it is not okay for you to just leave them to look after themselves while you look after this new baby. It's also not okay for you to like pass responsibility of the new baby over to them and let them do that. Like, you can't just rest and relax with a new baby when you have 10 other kids. You can't do that. Sorry, you're not allowed. Do you deserve to rest? Yeah, I think everyone deserves to rest. But when you have 10 kids and you don't have help, no, you cannot rest. You just can't. Reason 21. I want to give my children the world. It's such a joy as a parent to give to your children, but it can also be harmful to our children if we give them every desire. She's so good at jumping to extremes. The same within the finances one where she's like, finances don't matter. Your kids don't need to have designer clothes and going to Disneyland 3 times a year without, mentioning the fact that kids do though need like food and water and shelter, etc., right? Like, and the same as here. She's like, it's bad to give your children every desire. Like, I know that you want to give them gifts, but like, it's actually really bad for them if you give them every single thing they ask for. Okay, but there is an in-between here. There's an in-between. You can give your kids like presents and like things that they want and also not give them every single thing they want. It's not an all or nothing situation. There is a very big difference between like taking your kid out for dinner and like buying them a helicopter, I don't know why those are my examples, but there we are. What parents can give to their children is circumstantial, right? Like, each parent has different means to provide for their children, and what each person describes as a comfortable life is different as well. And I did mention this briefly in my previous video, but like, I think that it's really important to acknowledge the fact that like, it's okay to want to give your kids a lot of stuff, right? Like, it's okay to want to give them things. I think that yes, it is not good to say yes to every single thing your child asks for. And I think that, there are people who definitely spoil their children and make it so their kids do not have an appreciation of the world around them and of things. And that can lead to them being disrespectful and like make them very out of touch with reality. And that is not good. And I think you do need to like instill these lessons in your kids and like teach them about the world, absolutely. But I also think it's okay to want to give your kid nice things as well. Like, you can have like a comfortable life and like get your kids things and take them on holidays and do like, you can want to spoil your kids. That is fine. You're allowed to want to do that. And if you're able to do that, then do that. If that is what you want, then do that. If that's not important to you, then you don't have to. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about preference. And I think it is so valid to want to give your kids things. And that's a valid reason to not have a bunch of kids, because you would rather like have a really nice, comfortable life where you can go on holidays and you can go out for nice dinners and you can buy nice things and like enjoy quality family time. That is a priority over having 8 kids and like having to all share a room and live paycheck to paycheck. Reason 22. The world is too terrible. We do hear this reason quite a lot, and I cannot argue against it. But obviously, she can, for opposite reasons, obviously. It can be scary to think of the world our children have to grow up in. Here's the question. Are we having children for us or for God? So what I'm hearing here is the accidental acknowledgement that she is having children for selfish reasons. Because, ma'am, that shouldn't be the question. Are we having children for us or for God? Okay, I see, I understand. The level of priority goes God, you, children, instead of how it should go, which is children, you, God. There's the conversation around having children is always a selfish decision. And I do think that is true, right? Like, you do have children for yourself. Like, why else are you having kids? But there are different degrees of that. There is having children to love and having children to be loved. And when you're asking, do you have children for yourself? That is asking, do you have children so they can love you? Which is not correct, right? Like when I think about having children, the thing that appeals to me about having kids is that it is someone to love. And I love the idea of loving and like pouring love into someone and like watching them like learn and grow. Like that is an incredible, beautiful thing. And like, yes, that benefits me because I'm doing something that I love, but the thing I love is to love. It's not about what I get back from them. Whereas for her, she's having children for God, which means she is having children specifically to spread a particular message, and because it's what she thinks she has to do. It's not about her children. It's not even about love, really. It's about duty. And that's a terrible reason to have kids. And it's just really sad to be like, are you having kids for God or for yourself? Neither. Have kids because you love them. That's it in its simplest form. Do we believe God gives their life? What? Did I quote that right? Or did she spell that wrong? It must be them life, right? It can't be their life. Oh no, it does say that. What does that mean? Do we believe God gives their life? Do we believe he has a plan and purpose for our children? Do we trust him to care for them, strengthen them, comfort them, provide for them? I have to assume she means we believe God gives them life, and we're not referring to God as like a non-binary entity who sacrifices their life. I don't think that's what they're implying, but it's what it says. Anyway, I have a question here, a hypothetical, and this is not something I am wishing for. This is not something I am hoping for. This is purely like a hypothetical question. What do you think would happen if one of her kids got like terminally ill, right? Like she's saying that you have to trust God and God will, like, God has a plan for them, God will look after them, God loves them, God will provide for them, comfort them, etc. But like, there are so many kids who get sick, who die in car crashes, who like horrible things happen. And she is so stuck in this belief system of like everything has always worked itself out so far, so it's always going to. Everything is always going to go right. We are going to live and we are going to thrive no matter what. But like, what happens if it doesn't? Like, would her entire belief system like shatter if like one of her kids got cancer, or if, you know, one of them ended up like dying in a car crash or something? Like, I obviously am not trying to say I want this to happen. I absolutely do not. I do not wish any harm on these kids. But I am curious to know what her response to that would be, because she would lose this entire ability to be like, God provides, God looks after you. Or like, would she just be like, that was in God's will, it's what he wanted? Because that to me just doesn't align with the like, God will always protect and provide. I don't think you can have both of those narratives going at once. And that shows again her like incredible levels of selfishness, because she is disregarding every story that is outside of her own. She has always lived and her kids are healthy, so therefore that is always going to be true, and it doesn't matter that other people don't experience that. She's using her own experience to like tell you that your experience is going to be the same, and that's just like not true, and it's so disrespectful to so many people who have not had that same experience. God does not always protect and survive. There are so many kids who suffer. Reason 23. I want a career. The pressure on women in this generation is like no other. We're told to do it all, to be it all. Just don't be a mother. I truly don't know where these people get this from. Like, they all just spout the exact same bullshit. They hear other people say this and then just say it themselves without actually ever thinking about it or looking into it. Like, there are the same percentage of people are childless, right? Like, the number of people who aren't having kids has increased, yes, but also the population is so much larger, and also we have more access to other people. So yeah, you're seeing a lot more people talk about childlessness because there is now a platform for you to see other people outside of your community talking about those things. But percentage-wise, it's about the same, right? And like, no one is saying don't be a mother. No one is shaming being a mother. Or well, most people aren't shaming being a mother, right? Most people are like, do what you want. Have kids if you want to have kids. Just like, do what is best for you and what is going to be best for them. There are a lot of reasons in which having kids is the wrong choice and it is a selfish thing to do, and I don't think you should be doing it. But I don't necessarily think it, like, I don't think it's because being a mother is wrong. I think that it's because a lot of people shouldn't be mothers. I'm telling you, don't become a mother, not because I think that it is bad to be a mother, but because I think you would be a bad mother. And there is a difference, and I think we need to acknowledge that. I'm saying less people should be mothers, not because I hate kids, but because I think that a lot of kids unnecessarily suffer because a lot of people become parents who shouldn't be parents. Also, like, not to mention as well that, like, having kids is still so heavily pushed by society. Like, that is still a norm. Like, it's so funny how these people, like, seem to act as though having kids is, like, this big, you know, social stigma and no one wants to have kids anymore and you can't talk about how you want to be a mother. It is still the expectation. Having kids is still, like, the societal norm and the expectation. It's just happening a bit later in life now because of, you know, the cost of living crisis largely is a massive contributor to that. But, like, people are still having kids and it is still an expectation and you are not in a minority here. I don't know why you seem to think that, like, no one thinks like you. There's so many. You have, like, 2 million followers. Like, there's so many people. Like, even outside of conservative circles, like, having kids is still, like, what is pushed. So, you're just bullshitting. I mean, the Barbie movie showed it best. The Chosen beating their baby dolls and the mocking of the pregnant Barbie. I don't know if we're thinking about the same Barbie movie, because in the Barbie movie I watched, a very core central part of that movie was about a mother-daughter relationship and how beautiful that was. And it ended with Barbie making the decision to be human so she could also have a possibility of having that. That Barbie movie? Is that what we're talking about? The Barbie movie, the Barbie movie that was about mother and daughter? That's the Barbie movie telling women to not be mothers because motherhood is bad? Okay, sure. Carrying on, I guess. I remember wanting to stay home so bad, but also loathing the idea at the same time. It wasn't until I fully committed to be a full-time stay-at-home mom that I found peace and fulfillment. And no, we weren't financially able to do so. I just decided to quit out of obedience to God. God has entrusted us to be their mothers. They're our first priority. Does that mean women can't work and be mothers? No, not at all. It means the home comes first. Okay, so this is very interesting to me because this entire book has been fuck what you want, obey God. End of fucking story. You don't get a choice. You just submit to God. And here she is saying that obeying God means not working. Obeying God means being a keeper of the home, you know, looking after the home, looking after the kids, and not working. That is what God wants. But then she's like, but if you want to, you can work and be a mother. You are allowed to do that. That's okay. That is fair. Okay, so you can go against God's word only when it suits you to say so. Because obviously she is working. She is working by exploiting her children, posting them online and making money through that. She is working by publishing a book full of TikTok captions and making money off of that. So she gets to bend the rules a little bit and say that she does not have to obey God here. She gets to go against God's will because it suits her. And she can't tell you not to work because then she would be a hypocrite. But girl, you are already hypocrite. Why are you allowed to go against God in this aspect, but like other people aren't allowed to not have kids? I don't understand. I'm confused. Can you elaborate further, please? Why are you allowed to work when God says not to, but other people aren't allowed to not have kids when God says not to? I'm sorry. Please tell me your answer. I would love to hear it. Reason 24. It isn't biblical. Before I read the Bible for myself, all I ever heard was how unwise it is to have more than 2 kids in this day and age. That God gave us a brain, so we should use it. That God helps those who help themselves. All things that strangely aren't even in the Bible. I just had to include this because I love including the line, people say God gave you a brain, so use it. And she's like, no. That's a bad reason. People shouldn't say that. That's silly. But tell me the alternative, though. If God didn't give you a brain to use, why did he give you a brain? Why do we have brains if God didn't want us to use them? Like, some things are just common sense. And you have a brain, and like one of the reasons you have a brain is so that you can use your common sense. And if you're here being like, but God didn't tell me. God didn't write it down. If God wanted me to know, he should have written it down. Or he could have given you a tool that would allow you to just like know these things. And he did that. It's called a brain. Fucking use it, please. Thank you. Good Lord. In fact, God found much pleasure in multiplying his people and blessing them. He multiplied them in prosperity and in slavery. You've really got to stop bringing up slavery. Why is this a point? This is the 4th time that she's mentioned slavery. Like, why? Girl, This is not doing what you think it's doing. You bringing up slavery in comparison to having children is having the opposite of whatever effect you think it's having. Like, this is not encouraging. And, like, also, I think it's so funny being like, it says in the Bible, it says in these stories that were from, like, thousands of fucking years ago that God enjoyed doing this thing. So that means that he still enjoys it now. It's giving... When I was 7 years old, I told my auntie I like horses, and now every Christmas I get a horse, like a horse-themed thing. It's like my whole bedroom is horse-themed because, like, I said I liked horses one time, and now everyone keeps giving me horse stuff, and I'm stuck with it forever. Like, that's what it's giving. God said he liked multiplying 2,000 years ago, and you're like, he said he liked it, guys. We've got to keep doing it to please him. Maybe he's sick of it. Maybe he doesn't want it anymore. Maybe he's done. Maybe he's done. Maybe he thinks there's enough people that have been born with brains that don't use them that he wants out now. But you don't care because he said it one time. Where does God ever tell us to decide anything? I don't have anything to add to that. I just really wanted to include that she said that directly. The true issue here is that we are relying on societal norms, our own... Oh my God! Okay, sorry. The true issue here is that we are relying on societal norms, our own minds, and a pastor to tell us what the Bible really says. I'm so confused because, like, what else? What else can you use to decide what the Bible says? Societal norms, our own minds, and a pastor. Okay. Can you give me another source? Like, who else is telling you what the Bible means? Like, God directly? But isn't that what the Bible is, though? Like, she's really here being like, I read the Bible, and this is what it says, so this is what God says, so I am right. Okay, so you used your own mind to decide that, right? Like, you read it with your brain and came to conclusions with your brain and are here like, don't listen to your mind, listen to God. But they use their minds to listen to God because God's not sending you a fucking text. You are not directly speaking to God. You are reading what he said through the Bible. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening, right? So you are using your mind. Like, they also think that oh my God, they're also reading what God said. They're using their minds like you are. And then your pastors are doing the same. And they're the ones who have, like, studied it, right? They're the ones who are, like, closest to God and have studied it. And, like, I am just so baffled by how she thinks that she is reading the Bible and why she is right and literally everyone else is wrong. Like, girl, what the fuck do you mean? Like, I am genuinely, like, she needs help. I'm not even kidding. Like, is she genuinely believing she is having a running conversation with God about every single aspect of her life and that she is having a direct conversation and she is the only one who can speak on behalf of them because everyone else is using their own minds and she's not because she's talking to God? Like, that's scary, and someone needs to check in with her and also, like, check in on her kids because I am concerned. Reason 25. It is just science. Many people believe that if you do it, you will automatically conceive. Did you know you're only able to conceive around 7 days a month? So the reason that people believe that you are the same level of fertile every single day and that your chances of getting pregnant are the same every single day, the reason that that is a common belief is because it is used in sex education as a scare tactic, right? It is used in, like, abstinence-only sex education. It's like, abstain from sex because if you have sex, you will get pregnant. Abstain from sex or you will absolutely 100% get an STI, and STIs are so shameful and you never want one of those. And one of the dangers of that is that people get STIs and they don't get tested because they think that it's shameful to get STI and tested and to have STIs and to tell people, and it contributes to the further spread of STIs, so that's bad. But also, that was a side tangent. That being what sex education is a result of people like you wanting kids to, like, abstain from having sex and people not having sex outside of marriage. So it comes down to just being like, don't have sex because you'll get pregnant. Don't have sex because these bad things will happen. Don't have sex, and not actually giving education. So people believe that, and people don't think to question the things that they learn. People don't think to question the education they get at school. So a lot of people do go on believing that because they were never told anything else. You have to go and seek out your own information, and people don't see the need to do that because they learned it at school. Why would they question that? And that is a problem with the education system. So yeah, this is knowledge that we should have. However, we don't learn it. And that is the fault of people like you, largely. So, you're contributing to this problem. Anyway, I can remember people telling me if I do it, I'll get pregnant, and it's not determined by God. So I did an experiment. I was young too and very fertile. I decided to be intimate every single day of the month for 2 months, except when menstruating, to see if it was just science or God. I wasn't surprised when it took another 6 to 8 months until I found out I was pregnant. I fully believe when we give God this area of our life, it's completely in his timing and a blessing from him. This is so fascinating to me because once again, like with so many of her points, I take the complete opposite side of this. I think that this is so much more scientific than if you were just fertile every single day. Like if there is only a specific window in which you are like fertile, that is science. That is your body working around like this biological system that we have. That is a scientific thing. You will get pregnant in these days, and here are the reasons why. We are describing exactly the reasons why this is the window for fertility. Whereas if you were able to get pregnant on any given day, that to me is very like, we don't know. I think that it would make way more sense for that to be God's will, to be like, oh yeah, you're pregnant today, just a random Tuesday at any point in your cycle. You don't have an egg that's been released. Your eggs are all in your ovaries. There's nothing going on. No like lining on your uterine walls for an egg to implant in. No egg even there, actually, to implant. But like you're pregnant anyway, fucking go figures. I don't know how that happened. God must have wanted it. You know what I mean? Like that to me is much more like God making the decision rather than science. If you get pregnant any day, that's not science, that is God. So I'm confused as to how you have viewed this the other way around, and I would like a further explanation because this explanation doesn't actually explain it. It just makes me confused. I just love that she kind of has all these points and she's like, I think this is God because that aligns with what I have to say. But that doesn't make sense. I think that it doesn't work for your argument and you should have just like not said it at all. This and the birth control one, like you've made the opposite point. You should have just kept your mouth shut because like you've actually hurt your point by saying stupid stuff. So yeah, anyway. Reason 26. I am scared I will die in birth. I don't need to go into this one because she's literally already done this point. There was a whole point that was called health. And also, I'm too old and it's dangerous. Like she's done this twice already. She just wanted 27 reasons. Don't know why she needed 27 reasons, but she did. So I don't think we have to cover this because we already have. And she's just repeating herself. And so that puts us onto our final reason, which is my children are too hard / have disabilities. I know the hardships of a child with a rare disease and the care and mental exhaustion required to care for them. And I've also gone on to have children after them. Well, I think at the very least, this is the first thing she said that I like respect her for, in the way that I didn't know she had a disabled child. And I'm glad I didn't know, in the sense that so many people like her who exploit their kids online, when they have disabled kids, they go in even harder and like really make an emphasis on the fact they have a disabled child, and they will like use that for their message, and they will like exploit their disabled child more than their others to show that they are like super mom. At the very least, the bar is on the fucking ground. It's on the ground, but I'm glad at least she doesn't like make a big deal out of her kid having a disability in a way that like exploits them online. Yes, it's hard, exhausting. You don't often know what you're doing and you feel out of control, but I wouldn't want to live without them, and I also don't find their life less valuable or the children that have come after them less valuable. I think that this is such a slimy way of putting this in the context of this conversation, because it's putting it in there as a like, I think that disabled children are valid and I love my disabled children in the same way that I love my other children, and I wouldn't wish for a life without them. And if you having a disabled child makes you think twice about having more kids, you're a bad person and you're ableist. And I think that that's just like a really fucked up way to put that in here, because you can love your disabled child and like value them equally to your other children and like feel the same way and like know their worth as a child the same as your other children, while also acknowledging that it is difficult to like raise a child who has disabilities in many different ways. It depends, obviously there are so many different factors, but especially when you're in the US, a lot of the times, you know, some disabilities come with a lot of medical costs that people just like cannot keep up with. And if you have a child who has high medical costs, you like likely cannot afford to have another child. It's not like going forward to not having another child because like having kids has been ruined for you, because like having a disabled child is too much and like you hate the idea of kids now. Like it's not, those are not related. It's a matter of like, I only have a capacity for this much time, this much money, and like this much X, right? And you have to be aware that like, yes, your children are equally worthy of like your love and of life, etc. They do have different needs. And if your disabled child requires more like time from you, then you shouldn't have more children that are going to also require more time, because then you are going to be neglecting the children you already have. Either you are going to be neglecting the non-disabled children and prioritizing this disabled child and causing resentment between your children because they feel unseen, or you are going to be neglecting to care for your disabled child to the capacity that they need care for, and that's also a problem. Like either way, like you need to acknowledge that like sometimes some kids require more care and they require more time, and you have to give that to them and you have to acknowledge that. Having a like high care child does change things, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you love them any less. It doesn't mean you care about them any less. It just means that your situation has changed and you have to take that into consideration, right? There's like so many situations that you hear and so many stories you hear of like kids who have disabled siblings who have had like really bad relationships with their siblings and so much resentment with their parents because of how poorly it was handled, because they've been neglected, because they were expected to look after their disabled sibling instead of having their own life. Like there's been too much responsibility put on them too young to care for someone that they are not equipped to care for, which has led to a lot of resentment. It has led to neglect. Like there are so many relationships that have been ruined due to the fact that some parents are not prepared to give the proper amount of care that a like high needs child needs. And I think that it's really selfish to just be like, well, I can keep having kids because I have other kids to look after my disabled kids, so it doesn't really matter. Like that's so fucked up and unfair on literally everybody involved. Yeah, you can love your kids, you can love them despite any health difficulties they may have, but you also have to like understand what that means and what is required of you, and you can't just like treat it as though it's exactly the same. Not saying they're less worthy of life. I'm just saying that all of your kids are more worthy of love than you were able to give them. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Also, like, just as a bonus point for this is that, like, I think that you need to be prepared to have any child, right? Like, there are a lot of people who will say, you know, like, they weren't prepared to have a disabled child, so they aren't, like, they were financially ready to have a kid, or they have a kid and they're going to have another kid and they were financially ready to have a kid, and then they have a disabled child and suddenly like it's a lot and they can't manage it and they can't afford it, and it's causing like a lot of tension in the relationships and neglect amongst their children. And I think that like so many people go into like parenthood with the idea that it is going to be perfect and there is absolutely going to be like no complications, no health difficulties, like nothing. Like you have to be prepared to have any child when you have a child. If you are not prepared to have a disabled child, if you know that that is something you are going to struggle with and is not going to be something you are able to do, then like that is a valid reason to not even have one kid. Yeah, if you do not feel equipped to raise a disabled child, it is unfair to like have a child who is going to potentially be disabled, because then you are not going to be able to provide them for the care that they require, and that is going to be horrible for everyone involved, and especially not fair on them. Like disabled kids are worthy of like a life where they are loved and given what they need, and if you're unable to do that, it is like, don't have a kid. Yeah, same goes for like if you aren't prepared to have like a queer child, don't have a kid, because your kid might be queer and you can't do anything about that. If you are going to like disown your kid if they grow up and tell you they're queer, don't have a kid, because you aren't prepared to have any kid. right? Like you need to go into parenthood prepared for anything, as just like a blanket rule. And so many people are not prepared for anything. And I think saying and acknowledging that you are not prepared for specific circumstances is a very valid reason to not have a child. So that was the final reason. She does give a little testimony at the end, which basically she just says a bunch of stuff she's already said. The standout part is that she didn't know that big families were a thing, even though she grew up in the church. So I don't believe her. Even when I was a kid, whenever I knew someone who had a big family and I told my mom, I'm like, whoa, these people have 6 kids. She was like, they're probably Catholic. I learned that very young, that a lot of like different sections of the church like don't believe in contraception. And I'm not even religious and I knew of that. So, you know, I doubt it. And also then she goes into talking about how she wanted kids and her husband didn't want kids, and they went to pastors to ask for advice. Like the doctors told her not to have kids anymore. They were like, please stop having kids because you're gonna fucking die. But she was like, how dare you? God wants me to have kids. And so they went to pastors and were like, pastors, what do you think? Do you think we should keep having kids? Do you think we should have kids? And 4 different pastors were like, no, please stop. And she was like, what do they fucking know? I'm going to keep doing it anyway. And I'm like, why did you go then? If you already knew your answer, why did you go? Why are you going around to pastors being like, should I have kids? Should I have kids? And every time someone says no, you just like go away and are like, okay, well, they were wrong clearly. Don't even ask then. If you don't want their answers, don't fucking ask. I don't understand what the point of that was. Waste of everybody's time. Yeah. And the closing statement of the book is, this is not the life I dreamed, imagined, or planned. It is the life God planned, and I could not have planned a better life. And just based on everything that we have gone through over the course of this book, I will say that's not true at all. Like, this is not the life you plan. It's also clearly not the life you desire. You are not as happy as you are pretending you are. And it is really unfair to all of your kids. Like, make yourself miserable. Sure, that's your prerogative, but it's really unfortunate and upsetting that you are also making 11 kids unhappy in the process of this as well. So yeah, this has been the 27 reasons why people don't want to have kids and why they're all wrong and should do it anyway. This book was an interesting read because I do think genuinely it was just a compilation of TikTok captions. My script that I wrote for this, that I, as per usual, did not follow very well, was actually, the word count was longer than the book itself, because of course it was. Who am I if not writing and saying too many words? But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I really enjoy doing this. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy finding books and reading books and talking about them with you all, so I'm really glad that I found this. I recently also found this book that I'm going to get into, which is The Journey Out, How I Followed Jesus Away from the Gay. So I'm also going to get into this. So if you want to see more content of me going through and analyzing fucked up, frustrating books, please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, etc. I really do appreciate it. I really do love this type of content. I would love to make more of it. Also, on that note about book content, if you like seeing me talk about books but want to see me talk about books in a way that does not make you slam your head into a wall kind of way, I do have a book channel. It is called Kiwi Reads. That is Kiwi with a Q, where I just sit down occasionally when I have the time and talk about books. I talk about the books that I love, books that I want to read, whatever. I just have a good time because I love to read and I love sharing that. And I also have a book club, patreon.com/Kiwi Reads also, where every month we choose a book. We talk about a book. We also have a monthly call where we talk about the book, and then just a bunch of other channels where even if you don't want to do the assigned reading, we talk about any books that we want to talk about, and even just life stuff as well. So if you're interested in anything book related, I'm available over there. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I hope that you did enjoy, and huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes, you replay